Hello everyone, my name is Ilyas Hussein and welcome to Off the Jump Why Sports Matter. Today I'm joined by digital producer and journalist for the Toronto Star, Libaan Osman. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Appreciate for you coming on. But before we get into the meat and bones of the show and talk about why sports matters to you, just tell us about yourself. How did you get here today and into the position that you are in?
It actually started right here. I went to TMU journalism, graduated in 2021, and I started interning at the Toronto Star right around the pandemic. And then afterwards, there was opening on the digital producer desk, and yeah, from there, now that's my current job right now. So yeah, started right here at TMU.
What do you do for the Toronto Star exactly?
My main job is obviously digital producer. I'm on the social desk, so I handle a lot of social media for the Toronto Star, running the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all that kind of stuff, and also write a lot of basketball stories for the Star.
Yeah, so you write a lot of basketball stories. So like, what does that entail? Like, do you go out to the games or?
Yeah, right now, like after this, I'm gonna be at the Raptors game. So big game tonight, in-season tournament, and yeah, like a lot of the stories I tell are about Canadian basketball players on the rise in the city. I follow a lot of up-and-coming players. Shaedon Sharpe, for one example, Portland Trailblazers guard, and yeah, like I tell a lot of Canadian basketball stories. That's been my focus.
Obviously, like you said, you write a lot of stories, profiles on like basketball athletes. Like, why is that something that is so interesting for you to do?
Thinking back to it, I've always, my favorite part about telling stories is like knowing the backstory, like behind the people, like who they are, what makes them who they are, the people behind them, and where they're from. For me, that's like the biggest part. When people ask me who's Libaan Osman, I'm like, I'm from the Esplanade area in the city of Toronto, like that's me, you know? And I find that a lot of the times we don't tell those stories, specifically of Canadian basketball players in the city. And for example, like Delano Banton, like he's from Rexdale, and like to him, if you ask him about Rexdale, like it's a smile on his face every single time. You know, that's where he grew up. That's the place that made him who he is and got him to the NBA, right? So for me, those are the stories I try to focus on, and yeah, shining a light on, especially on neighborhoods in the city that don't get the credit, they're often overlooked, I feel like.
The Delano Banton story specifically, I know he's not on the Raptors anymore, but I remember when that came out, I read that because I grew up near Rexdale, not like in Rexdale, but I grew up in the area. Like I know the 45. My high school used to play against North Albion in like basketball, and that was always a fun game. So reading that story a lot just like showed like how much impact like basketball has on the small communities in general. Like, what was so like fun about writing that story specifically?
Because I related. I feel like I went and I rode the bus that he took every single time to practice, to get home, and it was a long journey just to get to like from place to place, you know. And I related to that a lot. And for me, just like writing that story, it's kind of crazy that like for me, a lot of stories I tell is like people refer me to each person. It's like a network of connections. So the stories I told right here at TMU like connected me to Delano. It's crazy because like his mentor used to be an assistant coach at TMU. So it was like a full circle moment. I got to connect with him, find out his backstory and everything. And yeah, like that was just like the whole gist of it. But yeah, for me, Delano, just specifically like growing up, hearing his story, like how community centers made him who he was, that was me growing up. Like if I wasn't playing in a community center playing basketball, I don't know where I'd be. Like I don't know if I'd even like be interested in basketball at all, and like where I'd be in life right now. And I feel like that's a lot of the cases for people in the city specifically. If there's no community centers, if there's no place to be at after school, like where do we go? You know, and community center is a big place for him, and I can attest to that too.
You talk about going to the community center and how that impacted you. Like, what is your first like memory that you have of either watching basketball on TV or playing, or like the first memory you have attached to the sport?
First memory is like I remember my birthday coming up and like begging my dad that like, can we go to a Raptors game? And then him promising me and then trying to back out of it last minute. And then me ended up like forcing him to take me. And then we end up going, and I'm sitting there watching Vince Carter against the Raptors. I don't know anything about basketball. I know like little, like I know like they go down the court back and forth, that kind of stuff. But I'm like 6 years old at the time. I can't comprehend what's really going on. But everyone hates this guy, Vince Carter, and I don't know why. So then I'm like, at 6 at the time, you just follow what everyone else is doing. So I'm booing this guy like crazy, and I just remember having the time of my life. I was like, this is exactly where I need to be. This is where I love to be. And like basketball, this community, this fandom is like what I've been searching for, you know. And I've stuck with it. And yeah, Vince Carter bullying him, and I didn't know why. I feel like that's kind of like what brought me here where I am today.
And now you're here as a journalist that covers these stories. Why do you think it's so important to like cover and sports specifically when there's so many people that care about it?
Yeah, for me specifically, like I mentioned, like for neighborhoods, when I hear about neighborhoods in Rexdale and Scarborough, when I started at the Toronto Star, like I started as a breaking news reporter, and a lot of times those stories I told were like calling the cops and being like, hey, a shooting happened in Scarborough, a shooting happened in Rexdale, a shooting happened in this area. And I was so tired because I knew the people in these neighborhoods, I knew where they came from, and I know so many good basketball stories in these neighborhoods. So then when I came onto the digital desk and I got the freedom to write stories, I was like, I want to make an emphasis that I'm going to tell the story of the kid from Lawrence Heights that dropped 100 points in a basketball game and made Canadian history, you know? Like, that to me is like, no one's telling those stories, right? No one's telling about Scarborough, Leonard Miller, and how like a couple years ago he just popped out of the scene and he's now playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves, you know? So those neighborhoods carry weight, specifically in headlines, and that was like my focus when it comes to like telling sports stories, is shining a light on like those neighborhoods.
Yeah, I know. I think it's very important, like personally, like to highlight those underrepresented communities, especially in sports, because there's so many people that care about it. I mean, flashback to like the last year's World Cup, like 2.1 billion people were watching Argentina face France. In 2019, when the Raptors won the championships, people are flooding the streets, flipping over buses, jumping on top of it. Like you can see the passion that like, people have for sports. Where that passion, you said it comes from like growing up. What do you think that passion comes for in general for people?
People are just looking for a place to belong, I feel like. For me, like I mentioned the Vince Carter story, I felt like I belonged there, you know? And I remember, like mentioned community centers, like there was this basketball program in the city, I don't know if it still runs, but they called it Raptor Ball at the time. I don't think I paid for it at the time, but like that's where I got to just go and just be a kid, have freedom, and be a place where I was like wanted, and like I felt like I belonged there, you know? So I think that's the biggest thing. People want to feel like they can belong, and sports, I think that's the reason why it matters so much, is like it brings everyone together. Like you're watching one thing all at the same time. You can talk about it with people. You can have debates. The amount of debates I've had with people about like Michael Jordan, LeBron, it never ends, right? But you can just have those conversations whenever, right? So I think it brings people, and then you watch a shared thing together, and most of the times you're rooting together with people. So it brings people together. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, like you saying like the united aspect, I think touching on that is what matters to me specifically. Like I know going to like Maple Leaf Square during the playoffs, or Jurassic Park, going to the building, like you can just see that it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter the color of your skin, doesn't matter how old you are, people are celebrating, hugging each other, just random strangers that they never met before, right? And it's that big uniting factor that brings people together about sports, and that's what like makes people care about it, like that civic pride, that emotional attachment. Because you talk about how when you got that basketball tickets to go to the Vince Carter game, like for me, when I was watching my dad watch basketball in the living room, my brothers play it, I wanted to be there, you know, like it's that belonging and that place that people have in sports, and that's why I think it matters to me personally. But like for you obviously everybody has their different story, and like when you're talking about these stories where like you're highlighting these voices, what is like the most fun factor in that aspect?
For me, like, I could care less about the clicks, honestly. Like, when a story comes out, I'm sending it to the family members of that person, and then when they text me back and they're like, you told my story, my family story, or the player itself is texting me back saying, you told my story justice, like, this is exactly, like this is my story, and, like, they're coming to me and, like, saying, like, that to me is, like, I could care less what anybody else says online about, like, the stories I did, the clicks, the editors liking the stories. I could care less about that. For me, it's just, like, I did them justice, I did their community justice, I did their family justice, and that was my goal. I feel like when I set out in journalism, was just like, I could care less about being a big-time journalist. Like that to me doesn't really matter much. Like it's about doing people's stories justice, because we all have a story, right? At the end of the day, we all like are unique, and being able to just tell those people's stories and them allowing me to be able to do that, and like being vulnerable at points is is the coolest thing, and just the connections, the networks, and like you build relationships with people. Like some people I still talk to, like back to my TMU days of telling stories here of the basketball team at TMU. Is just I still talk to them on a daily basis, which is crazy. You wouldn't think that, but the fact that I told their stories, they enjoyed it so much, and it's not like we're building friendships, but it's just we're keeping tabs on like what we're doing in life, that kind of stuff. I'm following their basketball career, so it's just that continued just network and connection that you build through just telling stories. That's probably my favorite part.
I think that's like very like interesting and obviously a great way to end this segment of the show. Like, but before we go, we do have a game for you, which I mentioned to you earlier, but I didn't tell you exactly what we're going to be doing. The game, it's trivia.
Ooh.
Raptors trivia specifically.
I'm terrible with Raptors trivia.
Okay, you are a big Raptors guy. You got the NBA gear on. You're going to the Raptors game.
Yeah.
We have to hit you with some Raptors trivia. But there's 5 questions.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie, some of them are pretty tough.
Oh.
So I want to see how you do.
Okay.
I'll say if you get 3 out of the 5, you'll pass. And
do I get a tree or something? Like
pride.
Okay.
Get pride.
Okay.
That's what you're going to get here. But we got question number 1. Isabella's in the back. She's going to pull up some graphics to help. A little clue, not even a little clue, but just help prompt the question a little bit. But here's question number 1.
Let's hear.
Darko Rajakovic was named the new head coach of the Toronto Raptors, replacing Nick Nurse in the summer. How many coaches have the Raptors had in the history of their franchise?
Whoa, that's a crazy. Can I get like a multiple choice?
There's no multiple choice, but if you need it, I can give it to you.
I need a multiple choice.
Okay. So there's 7, 12, 10, or 9.
Okay, I'm gonna count Darko, Nick Nurse, Sam Mitchell, G. Triano, that's 4, and I think there's probably, I'm gonna go with, would there be 3? It's either 7 or 9, I believe. I'm gonna go with 7.
So that guy right there, that funny picture of Darko Rajakovic, he's the 10th head coach of Raptors history.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Nick Nurse was the 9th. Darko number 10.
Casey too.
Dwayne Casey, yeah, you forgot about him.
Okay.
But okay, we got question number 2. This one is a little bit of an older one, kind of bringing you back a little bit. Raptors, they've won many playoff series in their history. When did they win their first? Bonus point. I'll give you a bonus point if you can tell me who they won it against.
They won their first playoff series. You're forgetting. I'm 24 years old. I wasn't alive for this kind of stuff, man. So.
But how about if you were?
Hey, New York Knicks. I believe it was against the New York Knicks.
It was against the New York Knicks, and then when did they win it?
Either 1999 or 2000.
So you got the Knicks. I'll give you the point for the Knicks, but it was 2001.
2001.
You got 1 point so far.
Okay.
I'll give you that point.
Okay, and then that's when they faced Philly afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So far, all right. Not the best, but we'll give you that.
I'm not a trivia guy. I'm a storyteller.
Okay. So this one, as you know, you're a big Raptors guy. You would know this. Andre Bargnani, infamously selected number 1 in 2006.
Yeah.
Which NBA All-Star was selected 2nd overall?
2nd overall. So you're trying to throw me off. 2nd overall. Was that LaMarcus Aldridge?
That is correct, LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, I was about to say like Rudy Gay. I was like, no.
No. But funny enough, Rudy Gay, we got him later on in this trivia. Yeah. But yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge, 2nd overall to the Portland Trailblazers, was an All-Star. Went to the Spurs. Retired recently in 2002. Yeah. So we'll give that 2 points so far out of the possible 5. Okay. There's some extra bonuses in here. But this one, I'm not gonna lie, probably the hardest of them all. I would say. But let's see if you can get it. Okay. Rudy Gay, as we just talked about, was a Raptor for a short period of time in 2013 before he was traded to the Sacramento Kings. When he was traded, the Raptors went on this incredible run, made their first playoff appearance in the next 6 years. Yeah. Can you name me 3 out of the 4 players that they got in return for Rudy Gay?
Aaron Gray.
He was traded in with Rudy Gay.
Oh, he was traded with Rudy. Okay, so we got who we got for Rudy Gay?
Who we got for Rudy Gay?
Chuck Hayes.
That is 1.
Chuck Hayes. Who's on that team? Let's think about it. Chuck Hayes.
You just have to name me 3.
Chuck Hayes. I know Chuck Hayes because Chuck Hayes follows me on Twitter. That's my guy.
In that connection.
Can you give me a hint?
2 of them were important players in that era of the Raptors, I would say. Like that 2014 to 2018. There's one specifically that is an important player. One only played for a couple years, got traded. I'll give you a hint.
Completely blank.
One of them got us Norman Powell.
Got us Norman Powell. Oh, Graves Vasquez.
Graves Vasquez is 1.
Gravis Vasquez. I have to name one more.
One more.
Who's on that side?
I'll give you 15 seconds. I'll keep it in my head.
So we traded Rudy to Sacramento.
Traded
That's
to
me.
Sacramento.
Who did we get returned?
One more player.
Okay. You gotta give me
5,
another hand. You gotta
4.
give me another hand.
I can't give you another hint. That's all I got for you. You got 2. I'll give you the 2, but you didn't get all 3, so you can't get the point. The other 2 players you're missing, Patrick Patterson.
Okay, I was thinking Patrick, but I'm thinking we got Patrick Patterson somewhere like another
and
deal.
John Solomon.
See, I'm thinking those 2 names. I just want to say those 2 names.
Hey, you gotta say the names. You gotta throw them out there. Throw them out there. You would get it.
Nah.
All right. So next we have the last question. Question 5.
I shouldn't know that.
Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
As you can see, arguably,
Go.
undeniably, probably the greatest Raptor of all time. Will get his number 7 retired in the Raptors at one point. However, that was not the only number he ever wore for the Raptors. What was the other number he wore?
3.
That is correct. Number 3. A lot of people don't know that one, but he did it. Can you tell me why he wore number 3?
Why he wore? Well, I'm guessing Bargnani was wearing.
Bargnani was wearing 7. Yeah. Mr. Primo
They
Pasta.
should have given it to him right when he came. Take that.
I mean, but he almost got traded. Don't forget.
Oh yeah,
he almost got traded to the Knicks.
Yeah.
But you got the Kyle Lowry question right. LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah.
It's almost pretty
I
much.
should have got the John Solomon.
I'll give you the New York Knicks bonus point. So you got 3 out of 5 possible points.
Okay.
You passed.
I passed.
That's a
I should
prize.
have got 4 though. That
Should have got 4. Whatever. But hey, don't knock yourself. You're good with Raptors trivia. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I know this conversation was wonderful, and we could probably go on for another half an hour if we could, but it's all the time we got. We really appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy guy. Got to go to the Raptors game after this, but thank you.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
We really appreciate it. But for all the fans at home, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like our content, why not like and subscribe? We have more stuff coming on the way, so keep a lookout. Take care, guys. Appreciate it, brother.
Hey.
Appreciate it.